Lovely to see you all. We are so excited to bring you Gwen Lingenfelter, who you may have seen at various Pike Creek market days and other various things.
I only go to the Pike Creek market.
Okay,
Yeah,
right. And I was talking with Gwen earlier, and I asked her, how much did you know when you started?
Oh, zero.
Zero. So that just means that's hope for everyone, right? Anyway, without further ado, let me give you to Gwen. Thank you.
Can I just say something? I've seen her gardens. They are incredible, totally incredible.
Oh, thank you.
Can I just make a couple of announcements before we get started? One, if you notice on Nextdoor, I've been posting for Richard Holmes, if you know who he is. He did a presentation here for us on beekeeping. And they are having at the American Legion in Bandera, a beekeeping training sessions by different beekeepers. It was the 7th, then it was the 14th, now it's the 21st. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, it's over in Bandera. And I've also got the event on Nextdoor. And then the only other.
August or September?
September, it's at 6 p.m. at the American Legion there. And then the other thing that we probably just need to make a quick announcement is the next program is August, I don't have the date in front of me, whatever that 4th Saturday in August is, right? And we're having a plant sale, we're not having a plant sale until September.
September will be our plant sale.
And then, and we don't have a topic yet for the August one, at least I don't know it, so more info on that. Check Facebook.
We're working on trees because
Trees.
you're gonna need to be planting them in October and November. So it's a timely topic. We're trying to get the tree guy from the Blessed Land.
Jonathan Davis, right?
Yeah, so.
He's done an oak wilt presentation here before. Yeah, he's really good.
So that's the 24th, we're trying to get a tree person. And then the 28th is the plant, is that the plant?
21st.
September.
September, changed, okay, got it, 24th.
All right, thank you.
Next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think the way this machine works is I have to be on this side to touch the screen to change the slides. Is that right?
I think it does it on both
It
sides,
does it on
either
both
way.
sides.
Either way you want to do it.
Okay. I'll try it on this side then. Okay. Well, thank you for having me. Before I get started, it would be really helpful to know what type of gardening do y'all do? Do you do, show of hands, vegetable gardening?
Weeds.
You do weeds, okay. And flower gardens, okay. And what other type of gardens?
Rocks.
Rocks, okay. All
I got
right.
lots of rocks.
And do you know when your fall garden season is?
No, in the fall.
In the fall, okay. Well, then my presentation might help you. Okay, all right, and the other thing is I'm gonna have to be kind of looking at my notes a lot so that I don't skip anything. Okay, so, all right. Okay, just a little bit about me. I was really delighted and honored when Amy called and wanted me to present, and she sent me some links to look at previous presentations, and I got really scared because all of those people were master gardeners or certified gardening professionals of some sort, and I am none of that. But Amy convinced me that you really just, wanted some down-to-earth experience, so it's just me up here. Okay, and basically I'm just a jack of all trades, okay?
Except for screen.
Except for this. It was working
Is it-
yesterday.
There you go.
Okay.
You have to look away, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hold your mouth
we'll
right.
just do that. Okay, so I just dabble in all of these different kinds of gardening things, okay? It seemed like there for a while, I kept hearing, pesticides are in all of the produce at the grocery store. And romaine lettuce was getting recalled for salmonella, and a lot of that really scared me. So I decided that I did not ever want to buy produce from the grocery store ever again. Well, that was, 12 or 13 years ago, and I'm still trying to learn how to do things. But I have been successful with a few crops. For example, I haven't bought lettuce in the grocery store in weeks and weeks, because now I'm growing my own lettuce hydroponically. And also, I haven't bought bell peppers in way over 4 years, because I grow enough bell peppers, I grow a whole year's worth of bell peppers, and then I use fresh out of the garden, and the excess, I freeze it so that I have peppers all year long. And I also grow lots of serranos and jalapenos, and the same thing. I use those, I use fresh, and then I freeze what I can. And then I also do other stuff. Okay, no, see, it went backwards. I got it.
Yeah,
It's the
swiping.
way I swipe. Okay, all right. I also do other stuff. I do a lot of composting. I'm still trying to learn composting. Sometimes my compost works, sometimes it doesn't. But I also do the worm composting. I have 2 worm bins. It's the red wiggler worms, and I use their worm castings in 2 different ways. I have 3 honeybee hives, and then we do laying chickens and meat chickens, and then we also do feeder calves. And right now I started a new adventure in kitchen gardening and intensive gardening, so I'm still trying to learn stuff about those. Yeah, okay, here we go. Okay, so I picked a few topics to discuss, and preparing a fall garden really covers a lot of different aspects. And so I only picked a few topics to talk about. And the first one is preparing your soil. You have to make sure that, especially out here when we're on caliche and limestone, you have to make sure that you have good soil health, a good soil food web going on before you can plant anything. The next step is determining what to plant, and I've got some links in this slide that will help, that would be good resources for you in determining what to plant for fall crops, okay? And then you need to know when to plant, and that goes along with knowing when your fall gardening season is. And then you also want to determine if you want to start from seed or if you want to direct sow. And then the next thing is if you already have a summer garden in place, you want to, and you're going to put your fall garden in the same space, you want to know how to transition gracefully from a summer crop to a fall crop. And then you also, I'm going to talk a little bit about tending the garden, because let's face it, I'm very guilty about putting the garden in, and then life gets in the way and I forget to tend the garden. Well, that's a no-no. You have to tend the garden. And then I'm including some resources for some fantastic plant profiles or growing guides for the plants that you want to grow. Okay, and then we'll do Q&A at the end if you like. So first is preparing your soil. A word about pH. Do y'all know what your pH level is?
No.
Okay, all right. pH is critical, and I'm going to tell you why. I have I brought some articles in case anybody's interested, but pH, the University of Maryland put out an article that is basically saying that if your pH is way too low, the acidity can cause your roots to be toxic. If your pH is way too high, then that alkalinity binds the nutrients to the soil and makes the nutrients be unavailable to your plant roots, okay? So bottom line is, out here, we're all on caliche and limestone. Our pH is way high and way off the wall. So you're gonna have to lower your pH. This is a simple pH meter. It also does moisture. It's got a little switch on it. I use the pH and the moisture. What you do is you stick it down in your soil. You make sure the switch is on pH, and it will tell you what your pH level is. Mine is typically between 7 and 8, and I have to reduce my pH. Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but so far it seems to be close. Let's put it that way. I want to talk about lowering the pH. They make these products. This one, I'm sure you've all seen bags like this. It's a soil acidifier. This bag on Amazon, it's a 4-pound bag, a 6-pound bag, and this bag is $22 on Amazon. Well, what is it? Pay attention to this word elemental. Elemental sulfur is what lowers pH. This is derived from elemental sulfur, but guess what? This bag at $22, 6 pounds, this is like a little over $3.50 per pound, but this is only 18% free sulfur. It's only 18%. I found another product, and that would be this one. This product I got from Rainbow Gardens. This product is a 4-pound bag. It's $17. That's like $4.25 per pound. This one is derived from the elemental sulfur, but this one is 90% sulfur, not 18% sulfur. So this is what you want. You don't really want this. You want this one. Now this one, you have to be careful when you're trying to reduce your pH. You can't go out once a month and throw some on. What you do is you apply about 1.5 pounds per 1,000 square feet once a year. You don't do it any other than once a year. And the reason for that is because reducing pH is a long process. And if you go out even twice a year, you might end up having so much sulfur in there that you reduce it too low, and then it becomes toxic. The pH, the acidity becomes toxic to the roots.
You should do that before you plant.
Okay, so here's what I do is I get a soil test on the 1st of November every year, and we're going to talk about soil tests in a little bit. And then I get the results from the test back in like mid-November. I do all my amending at the end of November. That way I have all of December, all of January, and all of February for the pH and the nutrients to be working in my soil. That's what I do. Okay. Let's see. Oh, one other thing is this one is the better one because it's 90% sulfur and derived from elemental sulfur. But I also found at Tractor Supply, if you have a large area, I found at Tractor Supply, they have a 50-pound bag, and the label says agricultural sulfur, but if you look on the bag, it says elemental sulfur, and it's 90%. It's a 50-pound bag, it's $50, but that's $1 a pound as opposed to $4.25 a pound. So if you have a huge space and you need lots, that would be the place to go, I would think. Okay. So bottom line is you amend, you keep doing what you're doing. I just do my amending in like November.
Are you shipping your soil someplace to get it tested?
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that.
Okay.
I have a slide on that. Okay. So now, another thing is all plants have a pH range. And so for example, blueberries like it from 4.0 to 5.5. Thyme likes it from 6.0 to 8.0. Every plant has a pH range. But if you go through and you actually study the plants, you will find that most of them have a 6.0 in the range, most of them. So I try to keep my pH at 6.0, and but I also want blueberries, which blueberries won't grow at 6.0. And so I plant my blueberries in separate pots where I can control the pH in those pots, okay? So you can do stuff like that. Another thing to keep in mind is that as the rain is coming down, it's collecting little ions or eons or whatever. It becomes a little acidic. I believe I read that it's like 5.5, but then it hits our ground and then it goes through our limestone to get down to the aquifer below us. And as it's going through the limestone, it collects alkalinity. And so then you water from your well water, and what you're doing is you're adding that alkalinity back into your garden. So bottom line is, anytime you have rainwater, that is a beautiful blessing. But just realize that you're changing your pH level when you're watering, and so you do need to keep an eye on your pH. Okay, now we're going to talk about compost. What is compost? It's nitrogen and carbon, and I've been very guilty about not putting the carbon in. You know, I mean, it's you have to be very intentional to go out and gather up dead leaves and go put them in the compost, right? So I ended up having to come up with, you know, like I add kitchen scraps twice a week, I add dead leaves once a week, I make sure it's damp once a week, and then I turn it a couple of times a week. And compost is absolutely the best thing to do for your soil. Do y'all compost? Everybody? Okay.
So chicken poop is not.
Okay, well, let's talk about that just for a minute. You can put chicken poop in the compost. You just have, chicken poop is very hot, and so you don't want to, you want it to compost before you use that, so like 6 months or something like that. But another thing that you can do, I mean, maybe even 3 months to 6 months might cool it down. I'm not sure of the time on that. But another thing that I do is I clean out the chicken coop. In November, I put all of that on my beds after I've taken stuff out. You know, I can do that, and that chicken poop is good. In my coops, I have it mixed with pine flakes, which absorb the chicken poop stuff. And so that's what I can just put that, when I take my gardens out, I can put that on.
Right on top.
Right on top, and just let it overwinter like that, yeah. Okay, now how do you use
You
it?
got a question?
Yes,
Over there. Gwen, how, do you have a compost pile? Do you use a
No.
compost container?
I have a round barrel
Okay.
that's on wheels, so I
Just
roll
turn
it,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I have. So how do I use it? I take my wheelbarrow and I shove it up next to the compost bin. I take the lid off the bin. Tom made me a sifter out of 1/2-inch hardware cloth. So I take compost out, I put it there, I sift it, take it out, sift it, take it out, sift it. I put the bigger chunks that aren't fully composted yet back in the compost. And then that's what I use to go work in the gardens.
That's why her garden's so nice.
Well, I have to tell you what else I did this year. I went down to the cow pasture and I gathered up dry cow patties and I ran them through the chipper shredder, and that's what I used for fertilizer on those terraces. I did that. I wore gloves. Okay. Now,
Horse,
huh?
horse, you can use
Horse
horse
manure is
too.
good too. Yeah, very good. Yeah. Dog manure, no.
It's if you
Manure
don't
from
do
an
meat.
animal that eats vegetables.
Right.
That's the good thing, okay? Now also, I use the compost a lot in the garden. I actually sometimes use compost instead of mulch. So a word about mulch. They have dyed mulch, they have rubber mulch, and they have natural mulch. Dyed mulch, I would never put dyed mulch on any of my gardens anywhere because the chemicals in the dye leach out into the soil, and that's bad. That's really bad. Rubber mulch doesn't add anything at all. It's expensive, and I have friends that had rubber mulch, and after a few years, it was just grotesque, totally grotesque. What I do is I prune a lot, and whenever I prune, I run my cuttings through the chipper shredder and make my own mulch, and then that way I know it's natural. I know there's no pesticides on it, no chemicals, no nothing. It's just all natural.
Are there certain types of trees or limbs that you avoid in that process?
You know, that's a good question, so let me write that one down, because I don't know. You're asking some questions today.
I came with my thinking cap on.
We have a lot
Okay.
of cedar, but I've heard that's not.
I don't know if it is or not.
Yeah, but cedar helps keep the bugs away.
Yeah, I would think.
Let me
Yeah.
just write that question. Any types of wood to not use?
A juniper.
While she's writing it down, just if any of you have any friends who live in Kendall County, they have a new, chipper mulcher, and if you have, you just have to show an address, and you can go and you can get a truckload of free mulch. And because they have the new mulcher, it's really good stuff. Cause one of our board members was able to get it, for some of our areas over there. So I don't know if anybody has any daughter, son, mother, dad connection with, Kendall County. You might wanna try that.
And where is that in Kendall County?
You know what? I don't know exactly where it is.
Okay.
But it's at their, near their public maintenance facility
Ah,
in
okay.
Bernie, outside Bernie.
I
Oh,
think it's right next to the Cibolo Center for
Oh,
Conservation and the high school.
You know
There's a-
Oh,
I think
okay.
you're right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But you have to know somebody who lives there?
He's got an address.
You have to have
Yeah,
that,
sure,
yeah, you have to show your driver's
Yeah.
license.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but
Okay.
her daughter,
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Vermicompost is great to use in the garden. I use it two ways. One is
What is that? I don't know.
worm
what it is.
poop.
Oh.
Yeah, it's worm poop. Vermicomposting, I guess is the technical name. They also call it worm castings. So you have your worms in a bin, and then once a month I harvest. Well, once every 2 months I harvest the castings out, and I put the worms in fresh bedding. So I have my worm castings. Okay. So I use it two ways. One is anytime I'm planting a new plant, I make sure I add worm castings in the hole before I put the plant in, along with other stuff. And then I also make a seed starting mix. Now, a seed starting mix is for starting seeds. It's like potting soil, but it doesn't have it has extra nutrients, and it doesn't have the sticks that, you buy a bag of potting soil from Home Depot, it's got all these little sticks in it. That's unfinished. That prevents your seeds from germinating. Okay, so
Hey,
just.
one thing on vermicomposting.
Mhm.
If you go to the Lakehills Library Garden
Yes.
Club YouTube channel, the last presentation we had by Mr. Estes was exactly on this topic, and it was very in-depth
Okay,
on
cool.
exactly what it's all about, yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so, soil for raised beds. I didn't do this, cause I didn't know to do this when I built my raised beds, back in 2011, 2012. But, right now, my beds are old and they're falling apart, so I'm rebuilding them, so I'm gonna make sure I do this. The topsoil or garden soil, obviously, you can buy it in bags at Home Depot, or if you have a pickup truck and you need a yard or 2 yards, you can go to, I think they changed the name to be Site One. It used to be Stone and Soil.
yes.
And so you get the garden soil, and then you add in, it's a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And a word about the construction sand, it's not the play sand, that you get at Home Depot. It's construction sand. It's more coarse and it makes it drain better.
Heaven
makes it-
Artist has it.
Okay, cool. And then I plagiarized the term 103 blend. It's 100% plus 3% worm castings. Put your worm castings in there too. That adds the nutrients.
Can you buy worm castings?
You can.
Yeah.
You can buy them off of Amazon.
Okay.
And then there's a worm farm in Iowa. It's called the Iowa Worm Farm. He sells worm castings. He sells those. So yeah, you can buy them.
Rainbow Garden has it.
Oh, do they?
And
Okay.
there's someone out here that has it, and I have not, that lives right here on 1283 or somewhere, but I have not figured out who that is yet. So if anybody knows who that is, let me know.
I think that site's on Nextdoor. There was if you're on Nextdoor out here, I saw a posting about a month ago on a guy who says, I do worms.
So forward me that posting, por favor.
I
missed it.
We'll see if
Dang
we
it.
find
So
it.
you
Lake
add
Hills
these things that you
News.
just tell
Lake
them
Hills
what to do
News?
to
All
mix
right.
it up?
Well, on these, like you just get like a big wheelbarrow or a bucket or something like that. Like if I'm fixing to start filling my new beds, okay? So I'll just take a few buckets of soil, a few buckets of compost, the same number of buckets, and then some sand, put it in the wheelbarrow, mix it up, and then add in a few handfuls of worm castings, mix that all up, and I just mix it up with a shovel, you know, in the wheelbarrow, and then I just take the wheelbarrow and dump it into the bed. I don't know if you are able, I don't know if it'd be possible, like a place like Site One that sells this soil, I don't know if you could get them to mix it for you. That would be a question to call them and ask them if they could do that. Okay, seed start, that's for the raised beds. The seed starting mix is 45% potting soil with none of the wood chips. Now, every bag of potting soil I ever found had the wood chips in it, but I finally found one that doesn't. It's by Fox Farm, and it's a big blue bag, and it's got the word ocean on the front. It looks similar to this, not exactly like that, but it looks similar to that. It's called Ocean. When you open it up, there's hardly any wood chips at all in that. And then,
So it's pretty clean.
it's very clean, yes,
They
very clean.
sell Fox Farm at Rainbow Gardens.
FOXFARM.
And they sell it at Rainbow Gardens.
Yes, yes. Oh, well, actually, you know what? I think I've even seen it over here at Tractor Supply
Oh, that's
in
cool.
Bandera. I think,
And it's,
or either that or Hebner's.
and it's
It
seed
might
starting
be
mix.
the new Hebner's feed store.
Yeah. I think that's it. Okay, so potting soil, compost, and then a little bit of construction sand for drainage, and then more worm castings. And since I've been using this blend for my seed starting, I'm having a much higher germination rate. Okay, so now determining what to plant, okay? So I'm gonna ask a question. Why do you want to garden? And the answer to that question will really help you to determine what to plant and how much of it to plant. So using my gardens, for example, I don't ever want to buy tomato products at the grocery store again. So I raise all of my own tomatoes, and I make tomato sauce, pizza sauce, canned tomatoes, diced tomatoes, you know, on and on. And I don't ever want to buy tomato products at the store. So obviously my garden, I'm going to be planting a lot of tomatoes. And the same with the peppers. Now also, so I dedicated a lot of my space to those types of crops. But also, then I also want to eat radishes fresh, carrots, you know, potatoes, sweet potatoes, all of that stuff. I want to eat it fresh, so I dabble in those. And so you have to ask yourself, why do you want to garden? Do you want to garden just for a hobby, or do you wanna grow to preserve, you know, what do you wanna do? And that helps you figure out what you want to. Now, the next thing is, what do you like to eat? Sometimes what you like to eat is not what you eat. So it's also helpful, it's just a little helpful to track what you actually eat for 2 weeks or 4 weeks. And then at the end of that time period, highlight the items that appear a lot on your list. And then those are the crops that should be number 1 on your list to actually plant instead, or grow instead of buying them at the grocery store. Okay, so we're talking about fall gardening here, and our fall is basically warm season crops. And this is just, you know what? I can email this presentation to you.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you to do that.
I will email this, and
Because I will
and
post
even-
a link to it.
and
I will
even-
post a link to it under the
Okay.
video in the
and it
comment.
even has the notes, all of my
Perfect.
notes, okay?
Perfect.
So, this is a sample list of crops that will grow well in the fall. Okay, but now I also have a resource here, and this is the actual link. And I think if I touch the link, we can go
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Ooh.
this is the National Gardening
Probably could
Association.
even.
Yeah, and and I pre-populated it with Lakehills, cause I use this all the time. And what it is it has your spring planting strategy, and then it's got a lot of the spring crops. And then as you go down, then it's got your fall planting strategy. And then it actually has a list of all of the crops that are good to plant in the fall. There is a caveat with this, and I'm gonna show you what that caveat is. Right here, garden.org says that your frost freezing starts April 3, and we all know that's a joke, right? And that it ends November 2. Well, I grow into December sometimes, so I don't think that that's very accurate at all right there. But if you take November 2 and you say, okay, that's maybe 2 weeks before, you know, because we actually end 2 weeks after November 2, then when you go down here and you're looking at these fall dates, and if you decide to follow these things, you just need to adjust this. For example, broccoli, you need to, instead of September 3, you need to say maybe the end of September. So just, that's the caveat with this one. It gives you a good list of the crops that are good for fall, just with that caveat. Now, how do I get back to where I was?
Very good question.
Whoops.
There you go.
Okay, I did it. Okay.
What was that website again, please?
Garden.org.
Yes, garden.org.
Thank you.
I also brought, there's this one lady that I follow from Washington State, and she also made a list which has advice on growing brassicas in the fall, and also anything growing from seed in the fall. And I can email this article also along with the presentation. Okay, now let's talk about, what is that over there?
Just
That's
click
just
it,
drainage.
just
It's
hit
on
it
your
one
screen.
time.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Now let's determine when to plant. I was confused for years about my growing season. Oh my goodness. And look at why. Farmer's Almanac says 224 days from March 27 to November 6th. Garden.org, you just saw it, April 3. Well, both of these websites, if you really look into it, they use the weather station in Bernie to do this. And then there's WeatherSpark. WeatherSpark says 3/2 to 11/23, so we have 266 days. And in my experience, this is a lot more accurate for our actual growing season. But now we're just talking about one long, year-long worth of growing season, okay? I have to tell you, if I believed Farmer's Almanac, I've been known on some warmer Februaries to actually put my starts out into the garden at the end of February. You know, so it's like, if I believed Farmer's Almanac, it would be the end of March, so I'd lose a whole month there. Now, I'm gonna show you Weather Spark, because Weather Spark really opened up my eyes to the growing seasons. This is one chart, and it was I pre-populated it for Lakehills latitude and longitude, okay? Now, you'll notice right here, there's a purple shade right here that says cool, and there's a purple shade right here that says cool, and then in the middle is a pink shade for hot, and then it doesn't say warm here, it doesn't say warm here, but those are your warm growing seasons. So that being said, this kind of makes you think that, oh, I can grow cool season crops from November 24 all the way to February 20, and I can grow hot season crops from May 29 to September 18, and then these warm season crops I can grow from February 20 to May 29 and September 18 to November 24. That puts a whole different picture. It's no longer just one growing season. Now it's 4 growing seasons. I'm going to show you this website. And again, I pre-populated it for Lakehills because we're just 5 miles down the road. Now, I'm going to scroll down. Here's the chart that I found, and it kind of describes the hot season. Notice there's no cold season. Cold season is a little bit different for us than it is for people like in Washington State. There's all kinds of information in here. Cloud cover. I'm scrolling down on purpose for a reason. Precipitation, rainfall, sun, okay, moonrise, sunrise, humidity, wind, wind direction. Okay, right here, growing season. This comes down to your growing season, and basically it's describing that the growing season in Lakehills is 8.7 months, 266 days, from March 2 to November 23, but here's the real catcher. Rarely starting before February 2. What that means is maybe, you know, if February's a little warmer, you can grow in February, and rarely ending after December 12. That means that, you know, if it's a warmer fall, you can grow into December. This really shined a light for me. Now, how do I go back? Oh.
You're certified.
Okay. All right, so bottom line then is, here are our growing seasons. We don't have a cold season. A cold season is where there's a whole bunch of days below 30 degrees, and we just don't have that here. But for fall, this is our growing season, September 18 to 11/24, and here are the temperature ranges for these growing seasons. And I hope that's helpful to you. That really opened up my eyes in terms of my growing seasons. I can grow all year long.
Well, with our weather changes, you know, we might have a 35-degree night, but then it gets up to 70 during the day.
Yeah.
Last year we had some frozen, or it was freezing after our plant. I just threw a freezer blanket over it.
Yes, and we're gonna talk about that too. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's a good lead-in. But before we do that, we're gonna talk about seed packet info. Excuse me. Okay, seed packet info. I brought 2 examples. This is my Ford Hook zucchini, and this one is assuming it's got outdoor sow on the little map here. I'm sorry, excuse me just one second.
You buy burpees?
I buy burpees, I buy, I buy several different kinds, but also I'm gonna start buying my seeds from True Leaf. Excuse me. Okay, so this one, the picture down here is really interesting because the picture is a picture of the United States, and it's color coded based on the region that you are in. And this one says outdoor sow. And for our region, it says March through September. So what does that mean? That means that starting in March, I could go out and I could plant one zucchini plant March 1 April 1, plant another one May 1, plant another one June 1, all the way through to September 1, okay? And then that way I have fresh zucchini all year long. So I never have to buy zucchini at the grocery store, right? So that is, that's important to know. This one is, these are like little cherry tomatoes. They're called sweeties. This one doesn't say that. This one assumes that you're going to transplant these plants. So this one assumes that you are growing, that you're starting your seeds indoors. It does say on the packet to start 6 to 8 weeks before planting outdoors. And that you can, and so this map doesn't say direct sow. This map says transplant. So this is when you transplant. And for our color-coded region, transplant out there March through May, and then also July through August. Okay, so this one would be a perfect fall crop. We're already at the end of July, and you want to start your seeds 6 to 8 weeks before. So we're kind of late if you want to start these seeds now, but if you started on July 1, you could certainly put them out mid-August, and then they'd have the rest of our fall season to grow. So seed packet information is really important. Do y'all pay attention to seed packet information?
Yeah.
Everybody does? Okay. All right. This doesn't really belong in determining when to plant, but this is important for a fall garden. And that is, you know, the days are getting shorter, and the orientation of the sun is more southwest instead of west overhead. And so in your garden, there's going to be areas in your garden that aren't getting as much sun as certain plants need. So whatever you plant, and you're planting it in the fall, you need to know how the sun is shining in different areas in your garden. So, for example, here's one thing. This might sound rather tedious, but it is something to do if you really want to grow a good fall garden. You start documenting these areas in your garden. I go out 1 day a week, like every couple of hours, and I actually write down, okay, this part was sun 2 hours ago, but now it's in the shade. And you just do that like every day. I mean, 1 day a week for like, I'm going to say a year. So you know what the characteristics of your area is, and then you can kind of go by this. If you have something that the packet says it requires full sun, you know you can't plant it over here, you need to plant it over there, kind of deal. I hope that makes sense.
So even shade plants require direct sun?
No, as a matter of fact,
Oh, I see.
no, you
your
see,
little list
no,
there.
I even have a list here of plants that grow in the shade. Like thyme, chives, lemon balm, different things like that will actually grow in the shade. But the plant that you want, if the packet says it needs full sun, that's 6 hours of sun per day. And so if you've documented your area, your planting area, and you know this is going to get 6 hours, but this isn't going to get 6 hours, then you're not going to want to plant that over here. That's what that is saying. I hate to count backwards on a calendar. So I just think that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 14, 20. You know, you get confused, right? When you're flipping through the months. So I have this tool which also can be emailed to you. And basically what you do is if you are wanting to direct sow and you want to harvest by November 23,
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
you just type in 11/23 in it, and then the days to maturity from your seed packet, and it'll tell you when you need to direct sow your seeds outside. Or if you're transplanting, if you're starting seeds indoors, you type in your days to maturity, how many weeks, like that one packet said 6 to 8 weeks, so you type in 6, and then you type in your desired date to harvest. And then what it'll do is it'll tell you when you need to start your seed indoor and when you need to transplant outdoor. And I do that instead of counting on the calendar. I'm happy to share this tool. Okay, starting seeds indoors. One very good question is, should I start seeds indoors or should I direct sow? Well, most crops, if you direct sow, I mean, they're seeds, right? They'll germinate and grow. But I always, especially for tomatoes and peppers, I start my seeds indoors. And the reason is, like, for the fall crop, you know, the tomato plants, what are they, like 60 days or something to maturity? That's from the date that you transplant it. Okay, but you need 6 to 8 weeks of growth before you transplant it. So I can start my seeds indoors July 1, and they're indoors, they're out of the heat, they're protected from the heat so that they can germinate and become healthy. And then August 1, like this weekend, I'll be transplanting my tomato plants outside. They're already this tall, so I'm putting them in the ground, and they have the rest of this fall to do their thing. There are exceptions to starting seeds indoors. A lot of people wouldn't have space to start seeds indoors. I used to use my kitchen table, but
When you say indoors, you mean in the house, air conditioning versus the barn? Put it out in the barn?
well, you could put it in the barn. So we'll talk about that. A lot of seeds require more warmth to germinate, but other seeds don't, like your lettuces and spinach and stuff. Those, they prefer more like 55 degrees to 60 degrees, something like that, for soil temperature to germinate and do well. But other ones, like the peppers and tomatoes, they like the soil to be warmer. And so those you could probably start in a barn. I just have always done my seed starting in an air-conditioned environment. Did that help you? Okay, all right. Now there are exceptions. Root crops, you don't want to start radishes indoors. No, you just want to direct sow those. Corn, okra, you don't want to start those indoors. You want to just direct sow those. Okay, so now, we're transitioning from summer to a fall garden. Okay, do y'all have a summer garden in place already? Are you wanting to put your fall garden in the same spot?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So you don't want to just jerk everything out, just, forklift upgrade, right? You want to do it slowly. So you just do, basically, you don't pull everything out to make room for your fall crops. You just go to, like, maybe you have one plant in there that is starting to not produce as much, or maybe you're tired of eating so much zucchini or what have you. You just pull that one plant out, you add some compost, and then you tuck in a new plant, and that new plant will be your fall plant. And you might do 2 or 3 plants this week and 2 or 3 plants next week. It's just a gradual process. Here's a couple of things that does for you. It keeps you from, number one, being totally overwhelmed all at once, And then number two, it keeps your soil covered with vegetation instead of having bare soil, which is a real good thing. Now, the one thing is that you're gonna want to pay attention, when you're doing that, you wanna pay attention to companion planting rules. So for example, if you, let's just take this. If you have carrots in there right now and you wanna plant some dill in there, they fight each other. They're gonna fight each other. They're gonna battle it out. They're not gonna work well together.
Is that because of the soil?
No, it's because they don't like each other. They just don't like each other. But guess what? Like corn. Like if you have corn in there and you wanna plant beans now, that's good. You can do that. There's this companion planting chart for all of these vegetables in the green column. It's got what their friends are and what their foes are. Now here's one thing, I get confused at stuff like this, but what I did is I went through here and I found the plants that don't have any foes. They don't have any, battle axes. Basil doesn't have any foes, so you could plant basil with anything. Calendula, that's an edible flower, I understand. So I planted, it has no foes. And so just when you're tucking new plants in to your fall garden, just make sure you're not violating any companion planting rules. I can share that too.
So when you do that, so say you want to plant dill where you had carrots. If you've pulled your carrots, can you then plant dill or do you need to wait a season?
Oh, you know what? I don't know the answer to that question. Let me write that down.
Yeah.
I think it's, pardon me?
You gotta rotate. You have to rotate, yeah.
Like crop rotation?
Yeah,
I
like
think,
give it a rest.
yeah, I think so. But I'm gonna write that question down because this is assuming that you're planting them together,
Right.
instead of more on a crop rotation basis. Okay. Crop rotation, carrots and dill. Okay, carrots and dill.
Same
All right.
spot.
Same
Huh?
spot.
Same spot, yeah.
If carrots plant dill, yes or no?
Yes, no, I don't know. Okay, so that kinda helps you out there. All right. Now, okay, so now let's talk about tending the garden. Okay. This is bug eaten.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. But guess what? This part's really good,
Yeah.
okay? So here's why. I just came onto this year, not in time for that plant. This is Castile soap. Have y'all ever heard of Castile soap?
Yes.
Do y'all use Castile soap? Okay, well,
Hand soap, but not the liquid.
Yeah.
yeah, well, it's liquid and it says here it can be a body wash, facial cleaner, hand wash, dishes, laundry detergent, pet shampoo, and it's also good for fruits and veggies. And so the tip that I was given was to mix a quarter cup of this into a quart of water and spray it on my plants. And this, everything about this was totally bug eaten like this and like this. And then I used the Castile soap on it and the bugs left and let the plant grow. And so I just thought that was astronomical, so I wanted to share that.
What is that?
That's a purple cabbage.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a purple cabbage. And it got dirt everywhere. And so then another thing that I found this year for bugs is this garlic barrier. And so same thing, you mix it with water, and then I sprayed it on all of my vining crops. I have to tell you, I've always had problems with squash bugs.
Oh.
Squash bugs eat my squash, they eat my zucchini, they eat my everything, every vining crop. And so I used this garlic barrier this year on my vining crops down on the terraces and I haven't seen one squash bug.
Where did you
It's-
get them?
I got this from Amazon. Yeah, I buy a lot of stuff from Amazon. But that's the bugs. And then, so those are two things for bug control.
Well, that's.
Oh, yes.
When you use the Castile soap, what was the recipe? How much
Oh,
Castile
it's-
soap to water?
A quarter cup.
Oh, is it on that?
It's on here for
Oh,
fruit and vegetables add, no, I guess this was something, the person that gave me this tip told me this.
Okay,
1/4 cup soap with a quart of warm water.
okay.
Well, water, a quart of water. But you have to be careful with it because, if you put the soap in first and then add the water, it foams up and it
Yeah.
takes 30 minutes for the foam to go down.
But that doesn't work on all the bugs. You'd have to use the scarlet.
Well, so here's my arsenal. I did this on my raised beds. You've seen my beds, this year. I used this in the raised beds. I used this down on the terraces, okay?
Ah,
But next year, I got another tip that said, try it with Castile soap first. And what you do is you spray it on there a couple of times a week for 2 weeks. And by the end of 2 weeks, the bugs will be gone.
does it work on the doodle bugs?
I don't know.
I've got a lot of doodle bugs in mine too.
What is a doodle bug?
Those little rolling polies.
Oh. You know, I don't know if it works on doodle bugs or not. I
She
just
doesn't
haven't
have
had
any,
any
so it
bugs
tells me yes.
on the
Well,
veggies
she
that I've
used-
sprayed.
I know we have them down on the terrace, and that's where she used the garlic.
So maybe the Castile soap.
But I don't know, I've seen any up in the raised beds.
Yes.
What about the bees? Is this something you just spray down low, or I don't wanna put out anything that
This doesn't hurt bees.
doesn't hurt, okay.
This is,
good.
this is all natural stuff. This does not hurt bees. I have 3 beehives and my bees, they're just going in and out of the flowers on my, like right now, my zucchini and squash, and the pumpkins, the flowers are real big and they just go right in and out of the
She
bush.
doesn't have to supplement her bees, let me put it that way. Either way, nectar or pollen.
Okay, now, here's something that's really interesting. Row covers. I've used different kinds of row covers in the past, but this one is the one I'm gonna try now. These things are very flexible, okay? And these things, they come in a box like this, and they have the connectors. And with row covers, when you're done using them for your season, you can take them apart, put them back in the box and store them. But you can, it's got the connectors so that you can actually connect them together so that they'll stand up, okay? And then during bug season, you put your fine mesh on the row. And then, like for the heat of July, you can use shade cloth. And then for, like if it's going to snow and be 30 degrees outside, you could put your frost cloth or your thick plastic across them. And so, huh?
How do the bees get to them to pollinate then?
Well, you're gonna have to have stuff that self-pollinates but see, the bees aren't gonna be able to get in there if you've got your mesh on.
Right.
Okay, so you're not gonna have it on there all the time. You're just protecting from bugs like this. Now, I know that didn't answer your question, did it?
Well, when the locusts were here, that would have been a great
Yes,
time to put it on because they were eating
they
everything.
were eating everything, yeah. Okay, now,
Cicadas.
I came across, Tom and I were with a friend driving down Rio Ranchero Road over here, you know where that is? There's that one place that has all of those row covers. You might wanna drive, it's just the road the other side of the school. You might wanna drive down there and look at it. I found out the next day that place must be the place called Spice Farm. Are you familiar with that? Well, they have a link, Local Harvest. Do any of y'all look at Local Harvest? It's a website. Okay, This is their site on Local Harvest. And I just found it really fascinating and wanted to share this because when we drove down, here's this huge area with lots of these row covers. Well, look at what this place does. They're like a community supported agricultural, CSA, and they grow all of these crops. They have winter crops. Let me see if I can do this.
Can you buy them?
Yes,
Oh, there?
yes.
Or they do
Have you
it at the
seen
market.
I've seen.
No,
it,
you-
but
I think
I've
I've seen it.
never gone in.
They
there.
have-
It's for Monday when we leave. Okay.
You should drive by there and look at it. And
Where you could buy it.
right up here, here's the contact name, Karen Haynes, and her phone number, it's a San Antonio, it must be a cell number, 210-702-0898. And there's her address, 733 Rio Ranchero, and it's, her instructions here say, park near the first gate and text me for meet and greet. Welcome to Spice Farm Swallowtail Butterfly Sanctuary. Yes,
Oh,
Could you repeat that phone number? one
you
more
bet. 210-702-0898. But I just thought that was fascinating, seeing all those row covers, and that must be how they protect their crops, because they're selling, it must be like a weekly, you know, come and pick up your box of food for the week kind of deal, I would
yeah,
think.
that is cool.
Okay, but there's a good example of the row covers.
So if we just go to Local Harvest and put in our zip code, then that will come up
I
within
think so.
within the list, okay.
I think so. That's how I found her. I get a Local Harvest email once a month, and it was the day after we drove down there and I saw it, that it was really cool. Okay, a little bit more about tending your garden. First is the bugs, okay, bugs. Okay, pruning. Bugs love to hide under dead leaves. Do not ever leave any dead leaves on your plants. Prune them off. Another thing, and it's like, duh, you go out and pruning does, one thing that pruning does is it takes the old leaves away so that the plant can divert its energy into growing more food, right? So like, take a squash plant, for example. If you go out and you cut a squash off, you're basically pruning the plant, because when you take that squash off, then it diverts the energy for it to make more squash, okay? So kind of think of pruning as harvesting. You're gonna go out, you're gonna harvest. So you prune away dead leaves, you take some leaves off that look good, and you don't throw those out. You take them in the kitchen and you work with them. Cleaning anything that's dead laying on the soil anywhere around your plants.
So you don't
take
wanna
that.
leave that in, don't leave any of your, pruning in the.
No, do not leave any pruning in the garden.
Oh, I thought it would compost like into it.
You know what? It collects moisture and it hides bugs.
Mhm.
So no, don't do that. Yeah. Okay, and then also tending. You have to tend your garden at least once a week. I mean, you're just gonna have to be very intentional about that. And so also composting, if you have any bare soil anywhere, compost, tuck in new plants. Okay, I wanna introduce a concept here about tucking in new plants, okay, or weeds. Think back to your garden. How much do you have to go out and actually pull weeds? A lot? Okay, so that's because you have bare spots. And that's because the wind and the birds drop seeds onto bare soil, and so the weed seeds germinate, so you grow weeds. So do you wanna grow weeds, or do you wanna grow flowers in those bare spots? Edible flowers, like the nasturtium and the calendula, or do you wanna grow crops like small, like radishes and carrots and turnips? You can put those things in the bare spots. So like a tomato bed, you have 12 plants in a tomato bed. You, following the companion planting rules, you can plant those small crops or the pretty flowers around it and make it very appealing, you know, to the eye. as well as delicious to the tummy. So just a thought about weeding. I hate weeding, and I'm always weeding. You know, come, you know, weeds for sale. Come and pick your own, right? Just don't leave any bare soil for weeds to grow, and then you don't have that much to do. Now we're going to talk about. Everybody knows what NPK is, right? NPK. Okay. Okay. Nitrogen becomes gas, and gas escapes, and we always need to add nitrogen to as a nutrient, especially when you have first transplanted something out. It needs nitrogen for that lush growth, okay? But when you start making the flowers, you need more phosphorus, because the phosphorus is good for roots and fruits, and so you need more phosphorus for that. The potassium is for the overall health of the plant itself. And then of course there's always the secondary macronutrients, and then your trace elements or micronutrients there. I did bring this. Okay, this is, everybody knows this. This is your NPK right here, 10% nitrogen, 7% potassium, and 7% phosphate. Now, always read the back of your label also, because this particular one also contains, in addition to, contains calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. So it also has the secondary macronutrients, and then it also contains some of these trace elements. It contains copper, iron, manganese, and zinc. But then also, not just pay attention to that, but see what all is in it. I never thought to read these before. What is in here is cottonseed meal, blood meal, earthworm castings, the fish meal, shrimp meal, crab meal, bat guano. I think that's bat poop.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of different stuff in it that makes it very, very, very nutritious to the soil. You're feeding your soil food web. You're adding nutrients in that are really good. So always read these. It's not just the NPK that you want to look at. It's all of these other things.
And do
What does
you
it
mix
say?
that in your dirt mix when you're planting, or?
No, if, okay. I think what you're asking me is when I plant, do I use this when I plant? Yes. Is that what you're asking me?
Well, when you've created your soil.
Oh, okay,
Third.
okay.
Right, the
Okay.
third, are you putting some of this in?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, that's my soil mix, okay? That's for the health of the soil. That's for good quality soil that drains well,
Okay.
and that also will hold and retain water for the roots, okay? Now, on this, this instruction right here, there's also instructions. Excuse me. It says mix 1 tablespoon per gallon of soil at time of planting. So, you know what? So, for future fertilizer, see instructions for established. Oh, okay. So this one, excuse me, new container plants. Mix 1 tablespoon per gallon of soil. So if you have a pot that will hold 5 gallons of soil, then when you're putting that soil in there, you would mix 5 tablespoons of this into that soil. That's for container. Now, for new in-ground plants, it says apply 1 tablespoon per gallon of soil, work into soil a depth of 6 to 8 inches. Okay, so what that's saying, Penny, is that you've already got the soil blend in the raised bed. Now you're ready to plant. And so you're gonna plant a tomato plant, and let's say you're reserving, say, a square foot for that, and your bed is a foot deep. You'd have to do the math to see how many gallons of soil that is, and then you would mix the tablespoon per gallon of soil into that space, okay?
And then you put the plant down in there and.
Yeah. Okay, and it's also got instructions for established container plants and established in-ground plants. So broadcast 1 tablespoon per foot of plant height evenly around the foliage canopy.
Wow.
So like if this is your plant, then you would do it around, not up against the stem, but around so it can,
So when you water it,
Yeah.
it won't go get it.
yeah. But I wanted to show you that.
What was the name of that? I
Oh,
couldn't-
this one,
Growing,
this
Crazy.
one is Fox Farm. I like Fox Farm. Marine Cuisine.
oh, cuisine.
Yes, so fertilizing, so I'm seeing like the N, the P, and the K, and the secondary macronutrients, does it change relative to each plant, or is this pretty standard for every plant?
You know what? So that is where we're gonna get into the plant profiles, okay? Because some plants want more nitrogen, some plants don't want any nitrogen. So you have to look at the individual plant profile, yes.
I would just say, I guess it depends on what you want, whether you want the leaves or the roots.
Well, that for sure makes a difference, yeah. Okay. Now, I wanna talk a minute about soil. How many people have ever gotten a soil test?
It was a long time ago.
Okay. Okay, well, you have to get a soil test. You just have to get a soil test. It will blow your mind. And I have frequently used the A&M soil test. You can go over to Mansfield Park, the county extension office is there, and the lady at the desk, she's just as sweet as she could be, and she gives you this stuff for free. And so what this is a little sack. And in this little sack, you collect your soil sample, you fill out your form, you put your check, you go to the post office, they'll give you a box and you can mail it to A&M. And then A&M will email you the results of your soil test. Now, a couple of things, there's instructions on the back as to how to take a soil sample. You don't just go grab soil and dump it in there. What you do is you go to several places and you take a sample from each place in your garden, and you don't take it from the top, you dig down maybe about 6 inches, and you take your soil sample from there, you put it in your bucket, you go to the next place, get a sample, like about 6 or 8 samples, you mix it all together, and then that's what you put in here to mail off to A&M. Okay, and then on the form, it's your personal information at the top. But then down here, like, I would do a sample for garden veggies, and you identify it, the sample ID is raised bed veggies. And then I would do another one that says, terrace vining crops. And then I would do another one that says terrace fruit trees, okay? And so, because different ones have different recommendations. So you write those sample IDs here and what the crops are, and then you have your choice of the test that you want. I always get test number 3, which tests for all of the nutrients and pH, and it's $26 per sample. You can choose one that's less, but y'all can look at that. I want to show you what comes back and why it's so important. You really, really need to do this. I brought my last one here. A&M sends it to you via email, and it has a transmittal email, and it has it explains what every line item is on the soil test. It goes into great detail, and then it includes your soil test as PDF attachments. And so I just want to show you this. This is what one soil test result looks like. This is for gardens, and it shows my pH is 8.0, so I ain't growing nothing, honey. Okay, but it shows my nitrogen on this sample was about 1, it's less than medium. It's got a little line right here which is medium, and then over here at the side it says fertilizer recommended is 0.1 pounds per 1,000 square feet. It tells you what to add, okay? And so on the rest of these nutrients, I don't need to add anything. But down here at the bottom, it says apply an additional 1 pound per 1,000 feet of nitrogen every 4 to 6 weeks as needed to maintain vegetative growth. It tells you what to do, okay? And then below that, it says phosphorus. But my phosphorus is way high. It's way over here, way past, it's the highest one on there. It says phosphorus is highly elevated, and so avoid phosphorus containing fertilizers for the next 5 years. Well, how do you put on something like this when you're okay, I'll show you how. You get a 1200, because there's, okay, right here, because there's no phosphorus in this. This is just blood meal. This is just nitrogen. That's all this is. So you can go, I get this stuff at Rainbow Gardens.
And you can't use just the chicken poop. I thought that was very high in nitrogen.
It's high in nitrogen. You know what? We can Google chicken poop and see if it has phosphorus in it. We can Google that. You're gonna Google that. Okay? All right. Okay. So that's one option for your soil test. There are other options. And this is one. This one I went to Amazon and I got this soil test kit. So you pay for it for them to mail it to you. But what does this one do? This one, it's the same thing. You take your sample and then you mail it off. But then theirs is all online. It's got a registration number here. They will email you saying it's ready for you to view online. So you go in with your registration number and you can see it'll be very, very much like this. Now I haven't used this one yet, but I think this November when I do my from A&M, that I'm gonna do this one at the same time and see how close they are to each other. See
How
if
much
they-
is that one, the Amazon?
It's probably $25.
Same thing, so
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, it does have phosphorus and potassium.
It does,
So
okay.
it's 0.4 to 0.5% phosphorus, and 1.2 to 1.7% potassium, and 4 to 5% nitrogen per ton.
Per ton?
Yeah.
Huh, okay, I'm gonna study that more. Okay, all right, so now resources. Here's the plant profiles that you were asking about. Okay, here's two that I really like. The first one I'm going to show you is Mother Earth News. Okay, this is what comes up, and when you scroll down, it talks about growing. You click, oh, it gives you an advertisement. Okay, so then you click on continue reading, and it's got just a long list like this. And these are really good. So let's just look at one. Let's look at cabbage. It's going, there it goes. Okay, all about growing cabbage. And so what it does is it tells you types of cabbage, when to plant cabbage, how to plant cabbage, harvesting and storage, saving seeds, pest and disease prevention tips, tips for growing cabbage in the kitchen, even tips for using in the kitchen. Okay, so that's this one, and I really like it, and it's got a profile, a plant profile like this for all of the plants that are in its list, and I think there's probably 30-40 different plants in that list. Okay, the other one that I really like surprised me, and it's called the spruce. And the spruce, have y'all ever heard of the spruce? Okay, you say yes? Yes, okay. So on it, Is it going? Okay, this is the spruce. Now, the spruce is like home and decorating and all different kinds of stuff. But, oh, block. Okay, but you go up here to the search bar and, oh, I can't type anything in. Oh, I can too.
Yeah, you can.
Right there. Okay, what were we looking at? Cabbage?
Cabbage.
Yes.
Okay, Cabbage. And,
Click on the enter, the blue enter.
okay. All right, it's got all of these articles. How to grow cabbage, how to get rid of cabbage worms, how to grow and care for ornamental cabbage, cabbage companion plantings. How to install a garbage disposal. Okay, but look at this one. How to grow and care for cabbage. Okay? In this article, okay, it talks about cabbage. It has the technical details, soil type. Oh, it's native to Europe. Okay, hardiness zone 2 through 11. When to plant. Selecting a planting site, spacing, depth, support, light, soil, water, temperature, humidity, fertilizer, pollination, types of cabbage, cabbage versus lettuce, harvesting, how to grow it in pots, pruning, propagating, growing it from seed, overwintering. I really like the spruce.com.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's really good. And then it has facts. And so there's 2 resources right there for plant profiles. Huh?
Just click on it one more time, I think. There you go.
Okay. All right. And in closing, in my garden, I have failed a lot. I failed a lot. I have failed. I have killed plants. I have let plants die. I have let plants become bug-eaten. But I have a favorite quote. Albert Einstein said that the day you quit learning is the day you grow old, and I am never growing old, honey. Okay, and then I have one other favorite. Nicole Jonesy Burke is a lady I follow out of, I guess she's out of Houston. My new motto is, I am not afraid to fail. If I see something and I want to try it, I try it. If I fail, then, I failed. It's okay. But I learned something, right? And if I didn't fail, if I succeeded, then it's like, yay, right? So those are my 2 favorite quotes. And so I really appreciate y'all's time, and I probably went way over. I did.
Really good. We got 5 minutes here. So who has the question? Anybody?
Do what?
Anybody have a question? Here we
How do
go.
you protect your garden from deer?
I have fencing.
All the way around it?
My raised bed area has deer fencing around the whole backyard area. Okay.
Well, I just have a section,
Okay.
but I'd like to expand a little bit, but I know they'll just eat it.
Yeah.
They do,
So you have.
and so do the rabbits.
Rabbits,
Yeah.
and on the terraces, I ended up having to put critter fencing in. I got, for rabbits, for the smaller animals, I got, Home Depot had a roll, it was like 12 gauge, 1 inch square fencing, that's like, 3 feet,
No.
it's all 50-foot roll.
Oh, the green one?
Well,
The
then
green
I got the
fence?
black,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but, I guess it could come in green. But, the terraces, they're like on the side of a mountain, so I have, what kind of fencing would you call that Paul Lamascus did for us?
Just ornamental fencing.
Ornamental?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, but
just-
you've got so much growing
Yeah.
that even if they ate on it, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Well, but for the little critters, like, I had to add critter fencing to the bottom of it, because they were coming in and eating my vining crops.
armadillos and rabbits.
Yeah, they make such a mess.
And then pine straw, do you use them for ground cover?
You can use pine straw, yeah. Straw, if you're gonna use something like that, make sure you know the source. to make sure that there's no chemical or pesticide or anything on the straw itself. Like recently, there was a lady at the market days the other day that asked me about the hay that I buy for my cows to eat, because I told her I was collecting cow poop. And she said, you have to make sure that their hay, that the farmer who grew the hay didn't use pesticides on the hay, because otherwise then the cow eats that. So the pesticide is in the cow, and then the cow poops out the pesticide infected hay. And I'm sure straw is gonna be the same, is to make sure that it's not, that it's organic and not covered in chemicals.
And that's the same thing for horses, you know, if you worm your horses, you probably don't wanna put that in your garden compost, and chickens. So if you want antibiotic free or ivermectin free or whatever you use for your horses, same thing. Bat guano, way to go. That's
Bat
what we
guano,
want.
yay.
And he sells it down at Lakehills Farmers Market.
Oh, he does?
Jerry does, what is it, the fourth Saturday of the month? Is it fourth or second? Second. You know, I mean.
And where is this?
But
Rainbow Garden too,
I bet you
Yeah.
can.
cause I know I've ordered it.
he sells it right down here at Lakehills Farmers
Right
Market.
beside the True Value.
Oh,
Right beside the True
okay.
Values.
Well, you know what, somebody told me that that place is for sale.
It is, you wanna buy it?
How much?
$2.80.
$2.80?
It has four RV slots and a house structure.
Where is this?
Really?
Right next to True Value.
It's
Why
like-
is she selling it?
What is it, Joanne, what is it, 4 acres? I don't know. 2.3 acres or something? Yeah, it's a divorce sale.
Oh.
Is it distress sale?
Okay, so we're gonna move to Miss Deb.
Yes, we're going to, I wanna say thank you again, I
Thank
learned
you.
so much.
I was honored to be here. Thank you.
Yes, maybe, hopefully, maybe one day we can do a garden tour.
Yes.
I would love that.
I think we ought to have a terrace party.
Please.
Yeah, I think we ought to have a terrace party.
And eat the ornament, eat the edible flowers.
Well, I'm just going to, ask Mary Alice just to draw 3 winning tickets. Oh, wait, we're gonna put one in. Okay, let me shake it up. Okay, go ahead. Okay, 1. Who has number 641346?
Me.
Oh, congratulations.
You just have to read the last 3.
Just a little something. Oh, thank you very much.
Did that come with gloves?
Yes, it did, because you know what, when you press manual hard.
Tina was our first winner.
I was just gonna pull them.
Who's our second winner?
Jen messed me up in my head. Okay, the last 3 numbers are 323.
Hold on, no, this is a 640.
Oh, this one is 640323.
323.
Oh, very good.
Who was it?
That's-
Oh, yay.
Oh, yay.
Mr. Lingenfelter.
Mr. Tom.
Mr. Tom.
Okay. And the last one. I have the easiest job and sometimes I screw it up every time. Ready? It's 640322.
You're kidding me.
Yay.
Well, that's good. You deserve it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben, that was great.
I have
God, I haven't seen you in ages.
And hit stop.